welcome to Redeeming Reels, where we seek to watch movies and see the redemption within the reels. Today, we have a great kind of episode for you today. I'm going to be ranking my favorite animated films and what I think are the greatest animated films. So we'll get there in just a second. Before we do that, I just want to explain what kind of this is. So this ranking episode is a part of something what I'm calling a collection. What a collection is basically it's going to be a topic, like say animation. You take that topic and then there will be different pieces of media and content attached to that one topic that all gets released at the same time, right? So it could be an interview, it could be a ranking episode, it could be an Instagram post, it could be a review, it could be an essay, it could be all sorts of things, right? Like for instance, right now, this episode is a part of the animation collection. There's possibility that I could add something to that collection per se later on, but right now this is the animation collection. And right now, if you're listening to this, the ranking episode is a part of that collection. Then if you go over to our Instagram at Redeeming Reels, there will be an Instagram post about the 9 greatest animated films I've ever seen, ranked and put out so you can see the visuals and the kind of the beauty of them. As well as if you go to our YouTube or Instagram, there's a 1 minute kind of cinematic edit about animation and the beauty of animation. So those 3 things, those 3 types of content posted, that is a part of the collection. And there's gonna be other collections that we'll do. The one that I'm currently working on right now is a slice of life collection, where it's my favorite films that are about mundane living and life. And then there will be a ranking episode. There might be an interview, or like kind of like a discussion about them. I'm not sure. But then there will be an essay, a video essay about them, video podcast type thing. A post, an edit with like more quotes and intertwined within it. So like collections are just a bunch of different types of content. If there's 2 or more different types of content about one topic, that's part of a collection. So, and of course, there will be, standalone episodes and standalone rankings and interviews and all those type of things. That's the goal, at least. I'm trying my best. But this is coming out June 23rd, and so this next week, hopefully, we'll have the not ranking, a couple reviews, spiritual reviews out of the movie Past Lives, of the movie The Flash, and of Asteroid City. So stay tuned for those. But right now, let's get into this ranking. As many of you know, I do rate movies a lot. I rate every movie I see, and I rank them in lists and different things. And so when I give out ratings to movies, when I give it out of a score out of 5 stars or score out of 100, which I do both, I have a Letterboxd account. If you want to follow that, I can link it down in the description. So when I give out ratings, I try to do my best to be objective. Try to give my objective opinion. I try to make sure that I'm kind of just taking aside biases and be like, how good is this movie? How are the characters? How is the story? How is the writing? All those type of things, right? So I try to do that to the best of my ability. But I do make lists and I rank movies where I do what I think just in order of those ratings, right? If it's 100 out of 100, it'd be at number 1. If it's 80 out of 100, it'd be lower on the list. But I also do ratings and rankings of like my favorites. So it's like personal enjoyment comes into play, and like it's not the perfect movie, but I love it the most. And so this episode is going to be both those things. I'm going to briefly touch on and just run through what I think are the 10 greatest, and then I'm going to go through my favorites and kind of hopefully a little bit more depth, but we'll see. We'll see how we do. So let's get into it. What I think are the greatest animated films of all time. At number 10, I have Ratatouille. I gave this a 98 out of 100 for 5 stars. All these 10 are 5-star movies. 98 out of 100. Just an absolutely fantastic film. It's beautifully animated. It's the story is fantastic. The characters are extremely likable. It touches on deeper themes. I love it. Number 9, I have Brother Bear. I'll touch on this later because there is a lot of overlap in these lists, but um, just a beautiful, beautiful film that I have deep connections with, and I think is extremely, extremely underrated. Quite possibly one of the most underrated animated films. At number 8, I have The Iron Giant, a 1999 classic, directed by Brad Bird. Vin Diesel as the Iron Giant, just a fantastic film um, about sacrifice, and we'll get into more of that stuff later. At number 7, I have Princess Mononoke. This is a Studio Ghibli Hayao Miyazaki film. Just an incredible adventure. It keeps you kind of captivated the whole time. The animation is fantastic. And the story that unfolds is just so enthralling and intriguing that you just can't help but look at it. At number 6, I have Fantasia. Came out in 1940, easily the oldest movie on this list. Just an absolutely incredible culmination of sight and sound, and I adore this movie. It is what Disney is all about. Into the top 5, I have a movie called Your Name. This film is just, I think, the most beautiful film I've ever seen in terms of visuals. And there's a couple movies that are up there. But this film is amazing. It tells this kind of Freaky Friday story that I'll get into a little bit later. But it's incredible. The visuals, the story, the characters, the direction. It's just fantastic. At number 4, I have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So this is the first Spider-Verse movie. Came out in 2018. Probably one of the biggest surprises in movies, at least that I've seen. Nobody was expecting this to come out. Nobody was super excited for this, but it came out and it just has changed cinema. It's changed animation for the better. Now we get movies like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, the Ninja Turtles film, and of course the second Spider-Verse movie. But this movie is amazing. It deals on issues just of your purpose, and Miles has to realize that any Spider-Man, there can be any Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, anyone can wear the mask, but it's about how you're wearing that mask that is so important. Everybody's got different gifts, and you can contextualize them to your audience, to your surroundings, to your neighborhood, to your whatever peers. It doesn't matter. But everyone's unique, but has giftings, and so it's fantastic. Into the top 3, this is where I have movies that I think are just perfect movies. And the first one is at 3, The Lion King. I think this is a perfect movie. The story, the animation for its time, and I think it's got the greatest soundtrack of all time. So at number 2, I have Spirited Away. This is another Studio Ghibli Hayao Miyazaki film. For the longest time, I thought this was the best animated movie ever. I thought it was just absolutely magnificent. It's in my top 10 greatest films of all time. I think it's amazing. The adventure, the characters, Chichiro, who we follow, it's incredible. And at number 1, what I think is the greatest animated film of all time, I have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. There should be no surprise here. This movie is breathtaking. It's changing animation. It's changing movies in general. And I think we will look back at this movie 20 years from now and realize how amazing it is. So that is what I think are the greatest animated films of all time. This is kind of my objective list. But now let's get into what I think is I know these are my favorites. These are what I love the most. There's a lot of overlap, as I've said. So at number 10, I have How to Train Your Dragon. I don't remember when this movie exactly came out, but I remember loving it as a kid, and I absolutely love it now. This movie is just amazing. It touches on some really deep issues. There's lots of lessons that can be learned from this film. Obviously, there's the love and the connection between Hiccup and Toothless. But it's a movie that touches on the ideas of purpose and right? Throughout this movie, Hiccup, he tries to measure up and he's falling short each time, being looked down upon. There's disappointment with his father. And it's almost like you look into his father's eyes and you see this disappointment that's unbearable for Hiccup. Um, and Hiccup couldn't be who his father wanted him to be. Um, and he was very looked down upon, and people looked at him differently because he's supposed to be this great Viking like his dad, and he just wasn't. And obviously, eventually, Hiccup wins over that favor of his dad. The villagers, everybody sees him tame this dragon, Toothless. Um, and it's not until the end of the movie that Hiccup's dad realizes Hiccup's kind of true greatness and his purpose and what he's supposed to do. And so it tells this beautiful tale of not being who your parents are, but being who God has actually created you to be, right? Um, our parents are amazing. They're fantastic. I love my parents, but it's not about what my parents want me to be. It's about who God is creating me to be and what I am made for. And so it tells that beautiful tale of purpose and what God is calling us to do. And I think it's amazing. The animation is fantastic. The story in general, obviously, without like noticing the theme, the story is captivating. It's fun, and I think Hiccup is one of the best protagonists in animated films, at least. Um, Absolutely fantastic. So, I love this movie. Go watch it if you haven't. It's on Netflix. At number 9, my ninth favorite animated film of all time is Fantastic Mr. Fox. This is directed by Wes Anderson, who I absolutely love. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a spiritual review about Asteroid City coming out later this week. The movie's out, the review's not. And it's just Wes Anderson's a genius. I think he's just an incredible filmmaker, and he's incredible with this stop motion animation in Fantastic Mr. Fox. I think every character, obviously the cast of each of his movies is so stacked, it's star-studded, and it's amazing. And it doesn't stop here with the voice acting. I think that this is just one of his best films, second or third, in terms of just how good it is. It's a 5-star movie in my opinion. It's one of the greatest films ever made. And just the ability to communicate such deeper themes with these stop motion characters. I think Mr. Fox is just one of the best protagonists in all of movies. This past week, Micah and I, on our episode on the Chicken the Duck podcast, we did like this movie tag thing, and we had to pick our favorite protagonist. And we didn't want to pick, Spidey or Batman. We didn't want to pick a superhero, and we picked Mr. Fox because he's charming, he's witty, he's fun. And he's just a fantastic character. But this film does dive into ideas of greed, and we see kind of the fox, who is voiced by George Clooney, which is just the perfect casting. He steals not out of necessity, but for the thrill of it. Right? He's just greedy to be greedy. He steals far more than he needs. Right? And so this is just a brilliantly made film. There's a podcaster that I read, well, he's a podcaster, he's a blogger, and he wrote about Fantastic Mr. Fox, and he makes this point that I'll want to read when he writes about Fantastic Mr. Fox and greed, and he talks about and connects it to Christmas, actually. And he says this in his final paragraph. He says, "I'm hardly one to begrudge a fox some free scraps, and I can't claim that I'll be turning away any Christmas presents this year. Still, Fantastic Mr. Fox did make me consider how we often give a free pass to greed during Advent. A bitter irony given the overwhelming generous gift of Jesus Christ." And I think that's very true. I think that this film does elicit that and bring out those emotions, and I think that's why I do love it so much, because it's like makes you think about this greed that you might have, that I might have personally in my life. And so fantastic movie. I love it. I adore it. It is it is amazing, to say the least. So at my number 8th favorite film of all time. I have The Lion King, right? Here's your first overlap. And I think almost throughout the rest of this list, there's going to be some overlap. And this movie is amazing. It's my wife Jenna's favorite animated movie. Um, it has some of the best moments in all of movies, right? The opening scene, obviously the stampede and Mufasa dying is iconic. It's heartbreaking. It's sad. I cry every time, but it is beautiful. And then you have this, um, just these incredibly enjoyable characters. Scar is one of the best movie villains. Don't even care. He's just so good. Timon and Pumbaa are hilarious and fun. Simba is great. One of my favorite characters in all of movies ever is Rafiki, who we get. Um, in this movie, it's really amazing. I think it's perfect. And like I said, the soundtrack is literally probably the greatest soundtrack in the history of movies. I don't care what anybody says. But we do get deeper themes in this. Obviously, there's themes of sacrifice. There's themes of like kind of prodigal son type stuff where you're lost and then you're found. You kind of run home. Um, but there's a moment in this movie where um, Simba, obviously he lives this Hakuna Matata lifestyle, which obviously is not biblical at all. Like Hakuna Matata it means no worries for the rest of your days. It's our problem free philosophy, Hakuna Matata. And that's not a biblical thing, right? The goal of life is not to live this problem-free life, this worry-free life. Um, that could be great when that's a part of my life. I would love to live a problem-free life, but that's not always the case. And so I I think that um uh as Simba's living this life and he's just hanging out, he's living life with Timon and Pumbaa, and then obviously Nala comes, and then we get that beautiful song with those two, and she kind of knocks some sense into him, and he's like, I don't want to do it though, and eventually he goes and he's walking, and he meets Rafiki, who's obviously lifted him up as a child, and is this incredibly wise monkey, right? I'm gonna sneeze. Oh my goodness. And they're talking, they're communicating, they're talking about all these issues and should I go back? Should I not go back? And there's this incredibly funny moment that it takes this comedy, this humor, and then turns it into something so profound. And they're talking about the past, then talking about all those things, and like him, Simba going back, and Rafiki smacks him on the head, and he's like, "Oh, ow! Why'd you do that?" And he's like, "That hurt." He's like, "Does it hurt now?" And like, "No, because it's in the past." And Rafiki says, "Yes, the past can hurt, but the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it." And that is so true. In our Christian lives, we can learn from our sin, our mistakes, all those things, or we can run from them. We can hide from God, or we can accept and repent and be like, I messed up. I'm going to go forward and push forward and learn from what I did. And that's why I think this movie is so beautiful. This moment is one of my favorite scenes in all of movies, just because of how true it is. So, beautiful movie. I adore it. It's amazing. At number 7, this is the newest addition to my list, and it is a gosh, such a good movie. It's one of the saddest movies I think I've ever seen. It's called Grave of the Fireflies. It's a Ghibli film as well. It's about this brother, his younger sister, and for a little bit their mom, and their life kind of outrunning and running from the war and bombs and all these things. And it's beautifully animated for its time, just incredible. Just in a way that I adore. And you get really lovable characters and likable characters that you fall in love with. You really do. Um, but there's a moment. Obviously, like I said, the visual is amazing. On a technical level, the movie's fantastic. It's amazing. But there's a moment where this little girl, she's talking to her brother, or just in general, because they happen upon like a bunch of fireflies, which is why the movie's called this. And they're playing with fireflies, and if you know, fireflies die quickly. Um, and this little girl is talking, and she says something so incredibly profound that I think every single person kind of wrestles with at one point or another in their life. Um, she says, "Why do fireflies have to die so soon?" And when I thought about that, I just remember just sitting back and taking a step back almost. I like kind of leaned back in my chair and I was like, "Oh my goodness." Like I don't know the amount of times I've asked that question, but it's been a lot. Um and obviously she's not like praying to anybody, but that is a prayer. Um that's a prayer to someone or something. But in our context, in my context, that's a prayer to God. Like, God, why do these people have to die so soon? Why did my grandpa have to die so soon? Why did my sisters have to die so soon? Like, why? Um, and it's a cry and a prayer of lament, of the people that we love and we cherish and we just care about deeply. It's like, why did they have to die so soon? And honestly, there's not an answer that we can give tangibly. Um, but that hit me. That's what this movie's about. Is like it's about obviously, it's a war film if you don't know, and it talks about the tragedies and the travesties of war, and it talks about the innocence of a child and how that innocence can be ripped away through something like war. But when I think about a movie, I think about why did fireflies have to die so soon, and then I think about all of my loved ones that died and have passed away, that have gone to heaven, you know, but I still wish they were here with me. It's like, why did they have to go so soon? It's a prayer to God. Um, it's, um, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's really hard. Beautiful movie. At number six, my sixth favorite animated movie of all time, I have Your Name. So another overlap one. Um, and like I said, this is probably the most visually beautiful movies I've ever seen. Um, Makoto Shinkai, I believe. I can't remember exactly how to say his name. But just Um, ooh, goodness. Just a beautiful, beautiful movie. I think that the animation is breathtaking. Kind of the scenes and like the visuals that we get are out of this world. But it tells kind of like this kind of um, Freaky Friday story of these two people that are kind of switching bodies, and it's just it's amazing. The story unfolds in such a beautiful way until they get to like this one point, which is one of the most beautiful scenes in all of the film, and um, it communicates this lesson of obviously there's this love that's there, there's this time essence that's there, but what I think is it makes us be grateful for connections that we do have and that we get to experience and the feelings that are involved with those. That we treasure those, that we in our hearts, the people that we get to spend time with and experience every day, that we treasure those moments. Um, because for our two main characters in Your Name, they don't get to. Right, they're searching this entire movie trying to find each other, and then they get to each other where they both are, and they can't see each other. And it's this heartbreaking yet so beautiful scene, such a beautiful scene. And so this I watched this for the first time a couple months ago, I want to say, and it's just a breathtaking film, and I want to watch it again. At number five, I have Spirited Away. And like I said, this is Hayao Miyazaki at his best. I think that for the longest time, this was the best animated movie ever. I've obviously right now at number two. But it tells this incredible adventure, this incredibly likable character, um, breathtaking visuals, animation's fantastic. And I think I love it so much because Spirit Away tells us that life can make you kind of forget who you are, and the complexities of it. You can lose your sense of self. You can lose your sense of who you are, who God's made you to be. Um, and in all our kind of toiling away work, and if you have kids and church and all the different things. You try to have a social life, you try to date your spouse, all those type of things. You can kind of forget who you are, which you should be doing all those things. We should be doing them well. Um, but uh, the kind of the villain, uh, Yubaba, controls her employees kind of by stealing their names and giving them new ones. And this strips them away from their identities and basic senses of self. And so remembering their names means remembering who they were before they became one of Yubaba's puppets, right? That way the witch loses power over them. And so it's all about remembering their names, right? Remembering who they are. And I think there's a deeply connection to Satan and what he tries to do and what Jesus tries to get us back to, right? Satan is often trying to get us to forget our name, right? To forget that we are a son, a daughter of God. You could list off so many identities that we have within Christ. Satan is constantly trying to take those and be like, you know what? You are not that. Let me have you forget your name. But what we have to do is remember, I'm a son, I'm a daughter. This is my identity. This is who I am. This is my sense of self, that I am in Christ. And nothing that the enemy can say can deter that. And so it's all about remembering your name. And I think it's beautifully done. At number 4, oh man, what a movie. I have Brother Bear. I have a deep connection with this movie. Obviously, I have 2 brothers. And when I think about this film and watch this film, I think about my brothers. And so, of course, I'm going to have this kind of connection to the movie. Obviously, if you don't know what Brother Bear is, it takes place kind of in kind of post-Ice Age North America, I guess you could say. And Kenai is preparing for one of the proudest days of his life, and you get like a totem and like a virtue, and the virtue that Kenai gets is loved. He's angry and he's mad, and eventually he goes and he this whole scuffle happens, and excuse me, Kenai turns into a bear, right? His brother dies and he seeks revenge successfully, hunting down and killing a bear. And the spirit, whatever, in the movie decides and makes him a bear. And so it touches on these deeper themes of empathy, and it talks about sibling rivalry, which is amazing. But this empathy, to the ability to put yourself in the proverbial shoes of someone else, right, is the major theme. It's very, very obvious. It's not like this subliminal messaging, and it's obvious, but it's very well done. Because Kenai interacting with Koda, his new brother and friend, and we get amazing moments throughout this film. I think the soundtrack is one of the best. Phil Collins absolutely kills it. And On My Way is one of the best Disney songs. I will take no questions there. Just an amazing, amazing movie. At number 3, I have Fantasia. Fantasia, like I said, I think it's one of the best movies. It came out in 1940. And it's directed obviously by various people. It's literally under the supervision of Walt Disney. But it's a series of renowned composers and orchestra, and this vivid imagery and imaginative kind of journey through a kaleidoscope of clips and colors, shapes, everything, right? And Fantasia is the celebration of beauty and music, and it's what Disney is. It's wonder. It's like the idea of wonder. And the film in itself can be a form of praise, right? With all these visuals and inspiring awe and all those things. I just think of what we're supposed to do as Christians, just be praising God for the beautiful wonder of who He is and His glory. So this movie can seem boring, but I could turn on the background all the time and just watch it and watch clips. And Sorcerer Mickey is just one of the best. So it's amazing. I love the movie. At number 2, oh boy, getting to the top 2. Number 2, I have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. One of the newest additions to this list. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is breathtaking animation. It's one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. It's one of the best films I've ever seen. It's one of my favorite. I think it's my fourth favorite movie ever now. I've seen it like 4 times. It came out like 3 weeks ago. It is amazing. Um, it tells this incredibly well put together story of Miles and Gwen and all these other spider people. And I don't want to spoil too much if you haven't seen the movie because you really should. But it poses the idea of these canon events, these moments in times that are supposed to happen. And it makes me think about God's sovereignty. It makes me think of how certain decisions that I've made have led me to this moment. It makes me think about what's supposed to happen when someone dies. Is that supposed to happen? And if it is, then how is it shaping me and who I'm becoming? It makes me think of uh, just like, because obviously Miles, he pushes back, and it's like, why do things have to be this way? Why can't they be another way? Which makes me think about contextualization of church leadership and different ministries in different areas. Like, there's not a cut and dry thing. There can be other ways of doing things. And and so you do get just this incredibly well-rounded movie. You get this complete Spider Gwen origin kind of, and like full character arc. You get some of the coolest characters. You get amazing cameos. You get, like I said, the most amazing animation I've ever seen. And it's a movie I really love. I really love it. So, yeah, if you haven't seen this movie, go see it. And if you're in Vancouver, let's go see it again. I'm down. And at number one, my favorite animated movie of all time is The Iron Giant. This has been my favorite movie for a while. It came out the year I was born. Brad Bird, Jennifer Aniston, Vin Diesel, just an amazing movie. It's short, it's sweet. It's this adventure movie with this young boy and this giant robot. And it shows the sacrificial nature of Jesus, right? The Iron Giant is a Jesus figure who sacrifices himself for people that don't deserve to be sacrificed for. These are people that deserve to die, yet he sacrifices himself for them. And then at the end of the movie, we get this redemption, this resurrection of sorts, which is, it's just this beautiful picture of Easter in animated form, which I think I love it, why I love it so much. Obviously, the voice acting I think it's great. The story, I think, is fantastic. The animation, I think, is very, very good. But it's the literally embodiment of the Easter story in a kids animated movie that I think I connect so well with. It's probably why I liked it as a kid, and it's why I like it now for sure. So, those are my favorite animated movies of all time. At number 10, I have How to Train Your Dragon. Number 9, Fantastic Mr. Fox. Number 8, The Lion King. Number 7, Grave of the Fireflies. Number 6, Your Name. Number 5, Spirited Away. Number 4, Brother Bear. Number 3, Fantasia. Number 2, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And at number 1, The Iron Giant. If you like this episode, please leave us a review, like it on YouTube, share it, all those things. Follow us on Instagram, sub on YouTube, follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. Go check out all the other aspects of this animation collection. So thank you so much for spending time with me on my favorite animated movies. So we'll see you next time. Grace.